do. All right, let me bring people in. All right, good evening, everybody. All right, it's so good to see you all this evening. And we've got a nice group arriving this evening. It's so good to see you all. We're going to get started in just a moment. And oh man, we've got a great topic that we're going to be talking about today, or that our special guest will be presenting. And let's just make sure that we get everybody in the room. All right. How you doing, Sharda? Regina, how's it going? All right. Good to see you, Jakia. All right. Charity, Tiffany, Miss Arnold, it's good to see you. All right, y'all in the right place to be. We've got like, how many know about this topic that we are talking about tonight? I'm fascinated by it because I'm not gonna lie. My wife was asking me, "What is it?" And I started trying to break it down, and I was just like, you know what? Just to be honest, I really have no idea. And so we're gonna learn tonight because social work is super diverse, right? And so we didn't come here to hear me talk, but let's do some quick housekeeping. We will be offering one continuing education unit for this particular training, and so you can expect to get your CEU by Friday. It's possible again that it may come out by tomorrow, but if you haven't received it by Friday, please let us know, and we will make sure we get that to you. Um, and if you don't receive it, I'm gonna put support at aspirecounselingal.com. That's where you can reach me, or if you have any other questions or concerns. But we're going to go on and get right to what we have for the presentation today. And I want to introduce our speaker for today. And we have none other than Ataska Winsett. And she is an LMSW. Ataska Winsett has been a licensed social worker for 19 plus years and has performed as a licensed social worker and supervisor in various capacities that include foster care social work, all right, foster parent training and recruiter, assistant director of a boys and girls group home, a clinical advisor for an insurance company, medical social worker, and a program director for a foster care agency. She is currently employed as a professional developmental coach for the University of AI titled IVE stipend program, and a student athlete mental health counselor for Jacksonville State University. We love Jacksonville. In her current roles, she provides professional development coaching on a variety of topics based on the needs of the stipend recipient. The coaching role includes the following: clarify and focus on the recipient's goals and support their professional growth, identify personal sources of energy and inspiration to fuel motivation, work through barriers that may interfere with work life satisfaction, improve personal and professional communication skills, discover or enhance a personal vision and mission. As a student athlete, mental health counselor, sports social worker, Ataska's focus is on mental health and well-being of student athletes at Jackson State across 17 sports teams. 17 sports teams. She facilitates various training and programs to assist student athletes in achieving peak performance in and out of athletic competitions, as the focus is finding a balance within their mental, physical, and emotional well-being so that they can achieve their desired outcome. Additionally, she aids student athletes, in the development and implication of critical life skills in the transition to a higher level of athletics professionally, or preparation for life after sports, which is not talked about enough. Ataska has two kids, daughter Zion, 15, and a son, Aiden, 9. And she lives in Jacksonville, Alabama. Ataska loves listening to music, watching sports, traveling, and being a homebody. In her spare time, she is also a life coach and enjoys helping others identify and achieve their personal and professional goals, as she says, being the boss of your life. Without further ado, presenting on social workers in sports, we have none other than Ataska Winsett, and we are so happy to have you, Ataska. I'm going to
Thank
hand you the
you.
mic. Yes, y'all, I hope y'all can hear me because I wasn't talking in the mic, and we're going to let you take over. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm super excited to be here, super excited to talk about what I am doing currently as a social worker. So I'm going to get right into it. Troy and I have talked about it. If you have questions, I'm going to try to do the whole multitasking thing and look in the chat to see if you have any questions. Troy is going to help me out. If some questions jump up, um, feel free to chime in whenever you want to with the questions. And also I have a question and comment session kind of at the end if you want to just kind of hold your questions and wait. But if you don't, you can just kind of come at me as we go. So, and I'm going to do this little PowerPoint thing, so bear with me. And so making sure, Troy, you can still see my PowerPoint. Everything's good, right? Before I get started.
Yes, you are still in there.
Okay, good. So social work and sports. And so the objectives that I have here are, we're going to define and explore the role of sports social work. The second is to discuss the importance of sports social work to athletic performance. The third objective is to learn how to assist a student athlete who may be struggling with a mental health condition. And four, to give you all some review mental health and sports social work resources, the ones that I kind of use on a day-to-day basis to help me out through what I go through on my day-to-day journey as a sports social worker. So my role, when I first started at Jacksonville State University, I was the student athlete development specialist. And so that was a long title. And as I continued throughout, I was like, we really just got to lighten load, because people ask me, well, what does that really mean? What are you developing? What are you doing? And so then they changed the title to athletics counselor. So again, I'm at Jacksonville State University. Been here for 2 years. I'm the mental health coach for 17 sports. So I am actually the only counselor on campus that serves the athletes. Now, with that being said, there is a counseling center here for the general population. Can our athletes go to the general population counselors? Absolutely. But what has happened is the NCAA has come out and said, hey, we really want to have someone that's going to be geared to our athletes. We really want to have someone that is going to be able to work with our athletes one-on-one and really provide them with some resources and services that they need so that they can achieve better goals and have better support services while they're going through their athletic transitions and things that they're doing. And hold on, y'all, I'm sorry, my thing just got covered up. So with my 17 sports, and they are male and female sports. I do individual sessions with my student athletes. I can do group sessions. I can do the team sessions, or it may just be if I have a big team, like my softball team is 25 students. And so I may have small individual sessions with each individual child or student, or with the group sessions, it may be half the group, or it could be the whole team, just depending on what topic we're talking about and what's being discussed. I also have crisis response and crisis intervention. So I am on call a few days out of the month, I think it is. And sometimes I get calls, sometimes I don't. I feel like I'm not really on call, but if they need me, if something happens, then they can always reach out to me, or they'll call the on-call counselors for the campus. And so I do help with crisis response and that. And then at the end of the day, even if the student athletes doesn't have a mental health problem, so to speak, I do life coaching. And so I talk to them about leadership, career, and personal development. So all of that in a nutshell that I do, and I only do it for the student athletes. And so that's kind of my target goal, is to just work with the student athletes. Outside of that, sometimes I do work with student managers when we have student managers. I do see the coaches. Sometimes the coaches will come and want to see me, and we have GAs, graduate assistants. I work with the graduate assistants of the sports. Sometimes the assistant coaches, and so it just really depends. But anything athletic as it relates to mental health, then they come and see me. So I stay busy. All right, so what is the role of the sports social worker? So sports social workers provide counseling and therapy services to manage stress related to sports and treat mental health issues, bring attention to the needs and challenges of athletes, and remove the stigma of mental health problems. Provide insight on how athletic competition influences an athlete throughout a lifetime. Support the strengths of athletes for their safety, well-being, and success outside of athletics. And in a nutshell, providing advocacy, research, case coordination, counseling, and policy change for the functioning and well-being of the athletes. So I like to say, like, the sports social workers, we do it all. And for me, and I don't know if it's for y'all, but sports social work for me was a new realm. It was a new thing. I love sports. I'm very competitive. And so when I accepted this position, like I said, it was called the student athlete development specialist. So it was really more so of developing the athletes. And as they looked into it, it was like, well, you know what? Yes, but they have a development department at Jacksonville State. And so it was more of needing the mental health piece of it, like going beyond the development of the surface of level of a student. It's like, what's going on with the kid? What's going on with the student? How can we help them? How can we reach out to them and help remove the stigma of these mental health problems? And so that is kind of what I do in a nutshell, or what sports social workers do in a nutshell. But y'all know, as social workers, just in general, we do a lot. We go above and beyond. So this may be is written down for our responsibilities, but we really like to advocate for our students, our target population, our children, whomever, and we really want to get in and help. So my thing is to really help them manage their stress, their day-to-day, help them to function for their day-to-day living as it relates to them being a student and then being an athlete. And that's a big thing that I have to talk about, because when they come in to college and they're a student athlete, I have to make sure they understand, okay, you're a student first, so that means academics, and then you're an athlete, so that means your performance. That means you are, you have a wide range of things that they have to work on and what they have to focus on. So they have the athletic competition, but they're also this human. You're a person outside of that. So a lot of what I try to incorporate is like, how is your performance? How's that affecting what you do in your day-to-day life? How is the pressure of performing affecting your day-to-day life? How's the pressure of performing affecting your academics? And so we have a lot of different organizations on campus that I kind of go in every month and join in with some of the meetings. And so a lot of them is the academic meeting. So what I kind of do, although what I say to the students is confidential, I work with the academic side to kind of say, hey, if you have some kids that are struggling academically, let me tap into them. Let me talk with them and see what's going on, because there could be something else going on to allow, them to not being able to focus on their academics, instead of saying the kid's not going to make it or the kid's not doing well. Well, hey, let's look into the deeper side of it. What's really going on? So if our athletes are struggling academically, then they come and see me and we kind of talk about like what's going on for that as well. So between this, like I talk about the physical toll of the grueling years of an athletic career and the psychological implications of the stress and pressure that come with it, athletes can be susceptible to several conditions, and some of which are the following, which is the mental health stuff that we're talking about. Of course, they face depression. They go through a whole lot. Depends on where they're coming from. I have several sports where I work with international students. And that's a big thing with my international students. When we're talking about, I have students from Finland, I have students from Brazil, I have students from Spain, I have students from Russia. And so really trying to understand their culture, trying to understand their background, and know that they're 4,000 miles away. They're the only person that's here. And now I'm on the tennis team and I gotta perform. I don't have any support. This is my first year here as a freshman. I got picked up at the airport. They got brought here. And now, okay, hey, let's live. The life is gonna start life in. And then on top of that, they're very in tune to their academics, and they can handle the academic part, but it's the socialization, it's the connecting, it's the bonding, it's the meeting people. It's, oh, now I got to perform. And so that produces the anxiety. Like, what am I doing? Did I make the right decision? Now I'm trying to call mom. But a lot of times, especially with my international students, there's a 6-8 hour time difference. So they're up trying to call mom is asleep or dad is asleep or whatever the case may be. So that causes a lot of anxiety with my athletes and them trying to perform. And if you have anxiety, how well are you going to perform? And so really trying to, talk to them about that and work with that. Substance abuse, eating disorders. I have a few student athletes that have been diagnosed with some eating disorders, and we work about body image. We talk about that. And then the only time that one of the times that I do try to refer out is for those resources, because I'm not an expert in everything. So I do need help. I do need some extra help. And so when I refer them over to maybe a sports psychologist or a psychologist that works well with eating disorders, and so they see me and they'll see someone else as well, because that's a specialized situation that's going on and they need more help. And so I develop a treatment plan for them. And we have a treatment team, and that team could consist of the coach or the assistant coach, the student athlete, the psychologist who has a specialty in eating disorders, myself, and just really depend on whatever else or whoever else is needed, or what other resources that may be needed for that. But we tackle with that because a lot of as we know, social media hypes it up and it makes them look good. And it's the glamour. You should look like this and you should look like that. And then or if something's going on with the student from the home, or they're bringing whatever they dealt with, the trauma from home, and they're coming here with this, and it's the body image thing. And so really trying to dive into that with them and to help them with that. Difficulty transitioning to new employment after athletic career. That's a big one here. And it's not just for my seniors, because when I started working here, I was doing some life coaching, and it was like, okay, so what's next for you? What's your plan B? And they were like deer in headlights. And I was like, oh, you're about to graduate. You're a senior. Well, what are we doing? And so it's really trying to get them to think beyond tomorrow and think about the next year. Think about your plan B and what does that look like? And the stressful part of it, I guess I should say, is when one of my student athletes, if they get injured. And I just had one where she's a senior and she plays softball and she just got injured. And so she's going to be out for the next 6 weeks. Well, that's the rest of the season. Your season is done. And now she's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And now it's time to have that reality check. Now it's time to have that heart to heart. When I asked you last year, what is your plan A and what is your plan B? You didn't have a plan B, because plan A was going to supersede. You was going to kill it. You was going to do what you need to do for your sport, and this was going to go on. So it's a difficult transition, especially when you didn't get to go through your whole season. And now you're stuck with, okay, now I'm injured. Now, who am I? What is my identity? Because all they know, and it's a hard pill to swallow, because a lot of my student athletes, all they know is their sport. So when they come in and I say, hey, what do you like to do outside of your sport? Don't tell me your sport. Deer in headlights. Well, I like to listen to music. Okay, that's a start. But what's life beyond your sport? And so we have to work with them. I have to work with them with understanding that their sport does not define them, because that's what a lot of them end up kind of becoming. They become what they do. And so we're trying to find out, like, who are you outside of your sport? And so I engage with them and try to get them to talk to other students, talk to other student athletes that are not in your sport, because when they're in that same sport, they're living with their roommates, and their roommates is their teammates. They're going out with their roommates, and their roommates is their teammates. They're traveling with their roommates are their teammates. And so they never get away. They're performing with their teammates. They're playing with their teammates. They're living with their teammates. They don't get away. And I was like, all you know is what you know is your sport. And so it's hard for them to kind of be challenged with, what do I do after my career? What do I do after my academic career and my sport? What if I have a injury and it takes me out for the season and I'm about to graduate? And so we have those conversations and we talk about what that looks like. We talk about, just doing activities about your identity. Who are you? Trying to figure out who they are outside of the sport. Cognitive issues, chronic pain. Sport social work strives to address these challenges of the athletic experience and provide players with the resources and support that they need both on and off the field to excel in all areas of their life. So outside of the physical grueling part of being an athlete, the training, the strengthening conditioning, the eating right, the nutrition, and all of these things that come with it, psychologically, what are they dealing with? How are they focusing on? And I know we see, women's basketball sports is blowing up and it's doing great and it's wonderful and the name is getting out there. Well, that's the glory. And so we know the cliche, we see the glory, we don't know the story. Because I used to tell my coaches all the time, hey, you go out there and you're recruiting these kids, and you're recruiting these kids, as I call them, because they just graduated high school. They 18. They just coming into this whole college life experience, and they're a student athlete. So, when I would talk to the regular students, they were like, oh, the athletes, they get this, they got perks, they got this, they got that. But then my athletes are like, well, the regular students, they have more time to do this. They have more time to do that. Their schedules are their own. As an athlete, you don't have your own schedule. Your coach tells you what your schedule is outside of your academic schedule. You are your coaches. You're going to be strengthening conditioning. You're going to be at the training field. You're going to be in the athletic room. You're going to be coming to practice. And so really trying to figure out, who they are, what's going on. That physical part of it is a lot. And so when they're dealing with that, they're trying to train, they're trying to, strengthen and condition and get everything ready for the performance. And they got to have these skills and all of that. So psychologically, what are we dealing with? I've had some, and it's sad to say, but they were abused, neglected, molested, or whatever, and never said anything to anyone. And then something happened with a coach, something happened with another player, and it triggered something in them. And then they kind of like in a freeze moment. I don't know why I can't get myself together. I don't know why when I'm supposed to run, I don't run. And when I'm supposed to shoot my three and I'm missing it. And I used to get it on point all the time. And like something's just going on with me, or are they flinching when they see people, and so what I also do is I go to practices and I go to their practices to kind of see how are they behaving versus how they're acting with me in the office. And so when they come and see me and we're talking about the certain issue and what's ever going on, I want to see, let's just say if it's an anger issue, and we talked about ways to cope and how to get through those anger issues, because that's just how you did it at home. We slammed doors, we hit people, we did whatever. And so I tell these coaches, you recruiting the student athletes for their performance. You go to these performances, you go to these events, and you see how well they are on the court. You see how well they are on the field, but you're recruiting the whole person. You guys are just recruiting the performance, the athlete. When they come here, we're dealing with the whole person. So that trauma, that baggage, that stuff that they're dealing with, that's coming with them. And some of the coaches don't know how to deal with that. We just need him or her to perform. And I said, but that's not who all he or she is. So we got to deal with the whole person. And so that's another thing when students come here, they're recruited because they're the cream of the crop at their high school. They're recruited because they're the cream of the crop wherever they came from, or if they're transferring in from another college. They're the cream of the crop. They're recruited. They're coming here. Well, then they get with all the other cream of the crops. So now they're when they was at the high totem pole in their high school or wherever they was in another school, they were number one, number two. Well, now you're in the mix with a whole bunch of number ones and number twos. So now it's a competition thing. Now it's a rival. This is a D1 school, so it's very competitive. And so now you got more competition within your group than you did before when you was in high school, when you was the number one man, you was the number one girl. And so really trying to get them to kind of psychologically deal with that. And so it's a lot. It's a lot. I enjoy it, but I don't think that a lot of people really gather what it is to be a student athlete. And we see the glory, we see how, they're doing well on the television, and they're getting this NIL money. Don't get me started on the NIL stuff. The portals, if y'all are aware of the portals, people jumping in and out of the portal. It's a lot. And they have to deal with a lot. On top of the performances academically, they got to be eligible to play. You just can't just go to school and you just play. You got to stay eligible to play grade wise. You got to have a certain GPA. You got to pass certain classes. Your eligibility has to match what the criteria is through the NCAA for you to be able to play. I had a basketball girl where she was not doing the best, and she'd take a test here, she'd pass a test there, and she got down to, it was a away game, and she got down to being out of town. I want to say there was in New Mexico, and they had to call, and they were like, hey, you need to talk with so-and-so. She's not having a good day. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on? Well, we just found out, she may not make her GPA eligibility, so she may not be able to play in the game. Now she's already there. They've already traveled. They're now computing all the grades and getting everything together, which she should have been okay. But she got this test, and this test, the teacher put this test in, and the test wasn't as good as she thought it was going to be. And now it skewed the numbers, and she may not be eligible. What? Like, and we had to do a waiver, and the waiver was like to send to the NCAA to say, hey, this is the issue. This is what's going on. Can we get an exception? Can she pass? Is it okay? And so game is at 4:00. We don't find out till 3:30. Okay, they passed a waiver. And now she can go play. Like, she talk about stress. And so those are the in and outs. Those are the things that is going on. Like, she's stressing out. Mr. Tosca, man, I may not be able to play. What's going to happen if I'm not eligible? That doesn't mean you're not eligible just for that game. You're not eligible for the rest of the semester. So that's huge. That's a huge thing for them. And so they're stressed out. They got anxiety. They're spazzing out. What am I going to do? So that's why I stress to them the importance of being a student. You got to get those grades. You got to get on in that, but you also have to be this athlete. You also have to perform. So I'm sorry, I may have gone a tangent about that, but I love what I do, and it's a lot. And so a lot comes with it, but I'm going to keep moving because we're on a time crunch. All right. The importance of social work in the athletic performance. So my goal is to educate student athletes and educate coaches and the coaching staff. So I am here 100% for my student athletes. But it's also a two-part thing, because although I'm here for the student athletes, I also need to educate our coaches and our coaching staff, because they don't really understand mental health. They don't really get it. They sometimes don't want to get it. Like, I'm old school. This is just what it is. They need to suck it up and deal with it. But again, these are not the kids that we dealt with 10, 15 years ago. These times are different. These kids are different. Things are different. Life is different. As life changes, we got to change with it. So I tell them we have to have open communication, encouraging athletes to express their feelings and concerns and not be called soft or a punk because they want to talk about their feelings. Normalize seeking help. Make it acceptable to seek professional support when needed. And it was funny when I started working here. I would go into the different sports, and they would all be grouped together because it was starting the fall semester. So I would go every fall semester and tell the students, because they would be new students and transfers and things like that, who I am, what I do, where my office is located, and all of this good stuff, and what I do and my role. And it was like, you're here for us, you're here for us. I said, yeah. So we can talk about your feelings, we can talk about concerns. If you want to talk about how it's hot outside, we talk about how it's hot outside and how that affects you. Whatever you want to talk about, this is your 50 minutes. This is your time. And as they got to know me, and I would go into the training rooms, and I would just make myself visible, because I already knew mental health. The first thing was, I'm good. I ain't crazy. I don't need her. I don't need because that was the stigma. And so as I got to such, I'm not going to go in with my superwoman cape on. I'm going to save the day for mental health. I'm going to go in as a Tosca. Let's talk. Let's chit chat. Tell me about your sport. I used to play volleyball. What's up with volleyball? I like volleyball. Hey, what's going on with basketball? Hey, you know what? I saw you at practice. That 3, that was amazing. And then be able to really talk to them and engage them. And once they, it's like, oh, she cool. She all right. We can talk about whatever. And so as they talked about whatever, that's me engaging them. That's me developing a relationship with them. That's them now coming to my office. That's them now texting me or calling me and saying, hey, I need an appointment. I got some stuff that went down, or I got some stuff I want to talk about. Or you know what? Life is life, and then I don't even know what to do. And I don't want to talk to my mom or my daddy about it because I want them to be okay. I don't want them to, I want them to still be proud of me. I don't want them to know I got problems. I don't want them to know I've got some concerns. That's what I'm here for. And so I want to make it acceptable for them to be able to come to me, and not when they see me at the calf or they see me outside, they turn the other way. Or if they see me talking to somebody else, they want to avoid me or ignore me. And that was like maybe for the first couple of months that I was here until they got to know me. Now they sit and talk to the most of my referrals come from them referring their friends, them referring their teammates. Hey, have you seen Mr. Tosca? You need to go see her about that. Hey, have you been talking to Mr. Tosca? You need to talk to Mr. Tosca about that. So a lot, it did. When I first started in the summer, it was maybe seeing, I think maybe I was seeing 15, 20 athletes. And it went from that to the fall. So I think when I last looked at my roster, I had over 100 athletes. Woosah. But I loved it and I was okay with it. And so it was like, wow, okay. In 2 years, I went from this to that. And I was telling coaches, that's not me. That's the need. I like to think that I'm great. I like to think that I'm good, but that's the need. Like these kids say, oh, we got somebody that's here for us. That's the need. I said, if the kids aren't running up to me because we finna go hang out and go party, they coming up to the mental health specialist because, hey, I want to talk. I need to talk to you about something going on. I'm dealing with this issue, or I just want somebody just to talk to that's not going to judge me. I don't want to talk to my coach about this. I don't want to talk to my teammates about this. I just want to have some safe space where I can just talk and just be me. And that's what I'm here for. So I educate the student athletes and the coaches and the coaching staff and talk to them about it. The modeling vulnerability as a coach, demonstrate that addressing mental health is a sign of strength. Y'all, and not just with the school here, but just in other high schools that I've been to and places that I've gone. We have this old school coach mentality of, don't be soft. You don't need to talk about it. Why you want to talk about it? What's the deal? What's the point? When I was, coaching 10 years ago, or kids back in the day, they still had problems. They still were going through things. They just kept it on the inside. I was like, why do you think people like they're suicidal, depressed? You think that just came out of nowhere? I was like, they still had it. They just didn't have nobody to talk to about it, or they didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody about it. So it's there. And so my goal is to educate the athletes, educate the coaching staff about it. And recognizing that participating in sports provides students with fitness, fun, confidence, companionship, discipline, teamwork, all these great memories. However, mental health problems can be a part of that picture. Well, he was fine yesterday. Well, I'm sorry, mental health doesn't just turn off and turn on when you get ready for it. So it's just acknowledging that the student may face unique challenges related to their sport involvement. Just because they're an athlete don't mean they're not dealing with anything. And I don't want to say they may be dealing with more, but they're dealing with stuff. They're dealing with stuff just like the next door neighbor, just like the kid down the street. They're still kids. They're still students. They're still dealing. And so we have to be there. I need to be there to help them, give them a safe space to come and talk about their feelings, about their thoughts, about their concerns, about their life. And so that's my goal, is to educate the athletes and the coaches and the coaching staff. So navigating mental health barriers. So this is sometimes when I talk to coaches, I said, you need to spend time outside of training to get in tune with the student athletes. That's the engagement piece, that relationship piece. I can't tell you how many times students said, I just wish I had a relationship with my coach. And I tell coaches all the time, if you have a relationship with your student athlete, they will run through a brick wall for you. But if they don't feel like you care, if they don't feel like they're not just a number, you might get mediocre. You might not get that extra push that you want to get. So if you're only focused on training and sports, mental health and relational connection takes a back seat. Building that connection will help in getting them to open up when they need to do so. And I said, you're going to get so much more from this student athlete if you just talk to them and they feel like they're connected, if they feel like they're a person, if they feel like they have value outside of the sport. Talk openly about issues and encourage them to educate themselves. And I tell them, hey, talk openly about how you feel, because I guarantee you, if you feel that way, somebody else is feeling that way. And so, and I encourage them to educate yourself about it. Either when they come in here, I have different activities or I have different, pamphlets and things for them to read. And hey, find out about this. I said, because what you're feeling, it has a name. This is real deal. A big thing that I talked to them about grief. So many of my student athletes have lost mothers, have lost fathers, have lost siblings, grandparents. And then I had one of my football players that, and while he was talking about losing his mother, and I was going through the stages of grief, and he looked me dead in my face and was like, "What is grief?" Wow. Okay. This is where we are. He was like, I don't think I've ever grieved. What is that? And so when I started going through the stages of grief, and it's like, well, yeah, I said, so what you're going through has a name. It's normal what you're doing, because it's like, I don't want to do that. And then, he started to cry and kind of tear up because he lost his mother in a fire. And he was younger, and he just never really dealt with it. It was, okay, I'm gonna keep pushing, I'm gonna keep moving, I'm gonna keep moving, I'm gonna keep moving. And then I told them all the time, I said, if you don't deal with your feelings will come back and deal with you. And you don't get to tell your feelings when they come back. They just gonna hit, and you're gonna be left with it. So I encourage them to educate themselves. Know what it is that you're dealing with. Know what it is that you're going through. It's got a name. Let's name it. Let's figure out what it is. Be conscious of the language and the treatment of others. Words matter. Show compassion to those experiencing mental health issues. Again, and I tell my coaches, and I tell even other students, you may not be going through something, but somebody else is. Be careful what you say and how you say it, because you don't know who may be going through what. You don't know what's going on with students. And so a lot of it is because of the social media. I had one of my basketball guys who he came in, he was doing well. Social media hyped him up. Man, you're the GOAT. You this, da 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 da. You brought Jacksonville up. We love you. Da 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 da. Well, turn around the next week and he had a bad game. Take him back where he came from. Why is he even here? You suck. The team's no good with you. So I'm like, whoo. You talk about putting somebody on a pedestal and then yanking them down. And so I have to talk to my student athletes like, don't read into those comments. Don't buy into that. Know your worth. Know your value. Know that when you got a good game, they're going to tell you. Know when you got a bad game, they're going to tell you. But you don't even know who these people are. Who are they? Like, you're putting the value into they. You don't even know who they are. Know your own value. Know your own worth. And that's a big thing that I talk about with all of my students when they first come in and see me. It's building rapport, but it's also, what are your values? Now, granted, these are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. They don't have values written on their forehead. What is your value? Oh, all right, let's start there. We have an activity. I have a sheet. I think we go through our values, called values clarification. Is what I do in my life coaching. Values clarification. Let's figure out what your values are, because your values is your central. That's your hub. That's who you are. That defines you. And so when you have your values and you have somebody else in your life or something else in your life, you want your values to align. And if you don't align because we're different, then we want them to intersect. We want them to be different, but there's a respect that's there. I can respect that your values are different, but it's when the values do this is what do you do? What happens when your values are contradicting something else or someone else in your life? Now we got to figure out what we need to do, but you got to know what you are, who you are, and your own values before you can determine what you're going to do with something. So just showing compassion to people that are going through, because you don't know what anybody's going through. They put on this facade. I had one team where the motto was fake it till you make it. I cringed when I heard that. I was like, oh. Because what are we telling them? What is that telling our athletes, our students? Fake it till you make it. So I said, well, let me challenge it, because are we faking it till we make it? Like, hey, I got this meeting. I really don't get along with my supervisor. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm just gonna, take this hour, do what I need to do, smile, laugh, be cordial. I'm gonna fake it till I make it, till I got this meeting. Are you doing it that temporarily, or is it a lifestyle? Now you're faking it till you make it in your sport, but now it has become your life. You're not even honest with yourself. You don't even know who you are. You don't know your value. You don't know your worth. You're just gonna fake it till you make it. You can have a bad day, but hey, y'all, I'm good. I was like, no, you're not. What you mean? I said, that was a lie. And then no, I'll just come at them. I'll just tell them, no, I know you. You forgot. I have a relationship with you. I have a connection with you. I know your personality. I know your demeanor. That right there was not it. And neither they you guys, you don't have to talk about it, but just know that I know you're not okay. I said, it's okay to not be okay. Say it. You know what? I'm not okay, but I'm going to be okay. I said, let's spin it off with something positive. Today's not the best day, but I hope it ends better. Today is not a good day, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I said, just say what it is. You don't have to have a good day and tell everybody you're having a good day if you're not having a good day. You're not even being honest with yourself. I said, it takes more strength, more energy to fake it till you make it. And I said, where you making it? What you make it to? There's no goal because you're not being honest. So we have to kind of watch what we say and how we say it. Treat their mental well-being as equal to their physical well-being. And I talk about this with my students when they are injured. I tell my athletic trainers, hey, when you got somebody that's injured on the roster, send them to me, let me know, shoot me an email, whatever, I'll reach out. Because as they're going through their physical recovery, there has to be a mental recovery. I remember when I had a soccer player when she had messed her knee up and kind of sprained it. So she was out for a couple of weeks. And so she went back to play. And I was like, I didn't see you. You didn't come see me. And, oh, I'm good. The doctor said I'm good. They cleared me. I was like, oh, okay. All right. So she goes out there, has a horrible practice, horrible week. Comes is like, I don't know what happened. Like the doctor cleared my, I said, because you mentally, you wasn't prepared. You wasn't ready. You've been out for 3 weeks. You thought you was gonna jump back in and you was gonna be what you was 3 weeks ago with no preparation, no preparedness, no nothing. I said, you physically recovered. I said, but as you physically recovered, your mental went down. I said, and so then as you get back on the field and say, oh, I got this now. And now you're not kicking as hard as you used to. You're not diving as hard as you used to. You're not blocking as hard as you used to. And now your mental's even taking a hit even more because dang, what I used to be. I was at a 90% before the injury. Now I'm at a 60%. Now the doctors clear me and I feel like I'm at 50% when I get back on the field. I was like, we got to treat our physical well-being just like we treat our mental well-being. We got to work on them at the same time. So making sure that they're understanding that and navigating that. Make it a priority for yourself and lead by example. Do your own work so you can model a healthy approach to addressing mental health issues and emotional responses. And that's more so for my coaches. I was like, you gotta, these kids look at their coaches as, that's my parent. That's the number one. I got to impress the coach. I got to make sure the coach sees me. I got to make sure I get the coach's attention. I got to make sure the coach knows that I'm even on the team. I might not be the starter. I may be the second or third string. I got to make sure he knows who I am and he sees my skill, sees my ability. And so I tell the coaches, they have that much thought for you. Like you got to make yourself a part because they're looking at what you're doing. You're leading by example. So if you're talking about how mental health ain't a thing and it ain't real and they don't care about, you think they're gonna come and talk to me? You think they're gonna come and talk to you about mental health having a bad day because you just slammed it? So now we got a kid that's struggling in silence because I don't want my coach to think I'm weak. I don't want my coach to think, that I can't do this on my own, that I can't make it, that I need help. Wow. I hear that all the time. And it's challenging to get me to help change that mindset and say, hey, you got to take care of you. And if someone thinks you're weak by taking care of you, then how should you feel about that person? Do they really care about you? Do they really want what's best for you? You got to put yourself ahead of them. Focus on the positives and empowerment that can come from mental wellness. Addressing student athlete mental health means a teen or a young adult is taking control of their life. That's empowering and takes strength. Just like I said, I'm here to empower the student athletes. At the end of the day, this is your life. At the end of the day, what are you going to do when that ball stops bouncing? What are you going to do when you can't catch the ball anymore? What do you do when your 4 years is up? Your 5 years is up. You got to take control of your life and not on the 4th year at the 3rd semester, not at the end. We got to be talking about this from the beginning. When my freshmen come in, we talk about this from the beginning. I say, because we're gonna talk about this because this is what we need to talk about. This is life. What happens when the ball stops bouncing? What happens when sports is over? You got to know who you are. Life goes on. You got to life with life. Life goes on. So there is sports social work versus sports psychologist. There are similar core values and alignment with those things, but targeting and addressing the concern may differ. There is a company that I do use. They have sports psychologists, and I've kind of partnered with them when I just need help because I'm just the only one. But when I need help, when a kid comes to me and it's not a mental health condition, it's more of a sports performance issue. And so I will then refer them to the sports psychologist where they can kind of talk more about the sports issue that's going on in the sport and like the techniques and things of that nature. So like in case of a student athlete struggling with stress and anxiety, a sports psychology practitioner might provide strategies for coping with the stress in the immediate term, particularly related to the sports performance. Social worker may aim to not only understand how stress impacts the student athlete's performance, but also how the stress affects their everyday functioning throughout a variety of life, their academics, their social relationships. And moreover, in addition to addressing the impact that causes the stress, the social worker may also seek to address the underlying issues that they originally caused the stress. Additionally, through a multi-system approach, the social worker may serve as an advocate and a liaison for the student athlete to connect them with other needed resources and support. So I think the difference is with the sports psychologist here is more of a, how can I help you in your performance? Where when I come and see me, it's more of how does this stress impact you? Where did the stress originate from? And how are we going to kind of get through this? And then not only just with the sport, but your life, the sports psychologist, and I can talk to them about the sport and how it affects their sport, but also how's it affecting your academics? How's it affecting your social relationships? How is it affecting your team dynamics, and things of that nature. So it all encompasses into one. And so I try to look at the whole picture instead of just putting them over here in the category of athlete. I look at the whole picture for them. Ooh, my time. Okay, I'm going to give a couple of case examples and then I can open up for questions. So one case example I got, it was a text message. It said, I'm just drained physically and mentally. It's the same old, same old. Tell me not to quit. I want to quit. I'm thinking. I'm very mad, so I don't want to speak out of turn. I cannot believe I'm going through this. I'd rather be sitting in my room looking at the wall like I've been doing all week. I'm ready for this to be over. Only 5 games left. Remind me, why am I doing this again? So this was a basketball player that I had been working with, and he was away at a game. And then I just got, because we have an app. And so the athletes are able to text me. They don't have my direct number, but the athletes are able to send me a text through this app. And so I got this message and I was like, okay. So I know this person, we have a relationship, we've got a connection. So I kind of knew what to do. So I was like, okay, you got to breathe. Focus on your values and your strengths. We got to use our positive affirmations. So I talked to them about positive self-talk. Remember your goals. What were your goals? What was the reason why you came here? What were your goals that we talked about? We set goals. What were the goals that you talked about? Facts versus feelings. A big thing with me when I talk with them, I say, the fact is you're a great basketball player. The fact is these are your stats. The fact is this. The fact is that. But I feel like I suck. I feel like I'm no good. I said, your feelings are going to change. But what is the fact? The fact is not going to change. We got to work on what you can control versus what you can't control. Find small things to make you happy. So these are the things that I was just kind of reminding him of. Hey, remember we was in session? Hey, remember we talked about this? Hey, because it was almost like, he's like he said, I'm drained physically and mentally. It was taxing. It was doing the conditioning, it was the practices, it was the robotic, it was the schedule. I don't have time for myself. I got to go to class and I got to go to practice. Then I got to go training. Then we're traveling. So now I got to go pack my bags because now we're traveling. Now we're traveling. Now we got to go eat. I got to go eat with the team. I got to go do this with the team. Now we got to go practice. Now we got a game. Oh, crap. The game was horrible. We lost the game. Now I'm hearing everything about how horrible I was at the game. Now I got to pack my bags. Now we getting ready to travel back. It was like nonstop. Like, I don't have time to breathe, Mr. Tosca. I don't know. So I was like, oh, just breathe. Just focus. Why did you come here? What is your why? Positive affirmations. You're a very confident guy. You know what you need to do. You know how to get things handled. You know how to multitask. Just really kind of pouring back into him because he didn't feel it anymore. He was over it. And so that's one example. The next is another text where a student said, I'm stressed to the max. I feel spread paper thin. I just tried to take a 10-question test and I couldn't finish it because I blanked out because I haven't had any time other than 9 or 10 o'clock at night to study. My body hurts. My anxiety has been so bad. Again, one of the things that I kind of work with her, this is one of my basketball girls, it was control your thoughts, reset, refocus, breathe. We talked about different things that she likes to do for mindfulness. We did some mindfulness activities. I talked to her about, reminding her to do your yoga. Hey, have you meditated? 5 senses. When she gets on this tangent of, I just can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, she'll continue to go on and on and on. And I was like, oh, whoa, 5 senses. And so the 5 senses kind of breaks up that tangent that she's spiraling down and says, okay, what do I hear? What do I see? What do I taste? What do I smell? What do I feel? And kind of get her kind of reset her focus. And so that way she can kind of get out of that conundrum of just kind of spiraling out of control with her thoughts and kind of pull it back and rein in and kind of, whew, okay, all right, let me regroup. The next case example was, I got an email from one of my international students and it said, hey, Mr. Tosca, I can't sleep. Actually, I'm afraid to go to sleep. I keep thinking about the sound of my heart and watching my stomach moving up and down. It makes me nervous to think about going to sleep. Then my heart starts beating fast and sometimes I'm in pain. My mind keeps racing and all I can do is think. So I sit up in my room watching TV all night. So this is one of my international students, and she thought that she was having, well, she had came and saw me and I could visibly see, like, she would kind of sit back in the chair. I could visibly see that her stomach just like palpating. And so of course, my thing is, okay, well, let's rule out anything medical. Let's make sure, that we're not dealing with anything else that's medically is going on for this. And we talked about the 5 senses and box breathing, sleep hygiene, making sure, like, what are you eating at night? What are you eating before you go to sleep? Because they're having difficulty sleeping. I talk about different sleep apps to give them. Like sometimes some of my students like to listen to rain, listen to the thunder, listen to the nature sounds, and then this international is far, far away, homesick. Sometimes it's the anxiety, sometimes it's being homesick, being away and I had one international student that was gone for 3 years and had not been home, homesick. But as soon as she went home, the sleep, no more issues, no more, everything was just like normal, homesick. And then, if they rule out medical versus mental, and then, maybe having needed some medication to kind of help with some of the anxiety and thoughts and things of that nature. So my takeaways, engagement, build relationships. The student athletes people need relationships. We're not meant to be here on this earth by ourselves. We need to build relationships. We need to be engaged. But even more so when you're dealing with athletes and they are having to perform and their life is put out there on the pedestal to be seen in front of the social media world, like they need that support. They need to know that somebody is there for them. They need to know that hey, I'm connected, if not to my team, so one person, somebody. They don't need to feel isolated, don't need to feel alone. Let's build these relationships and start the engagement. And it's helpful to know about the sports, but it's not a barrier to being beneficial. I happen to love sports. There are certain sports when I came here I had no clue about. And so I had to get to know more about tennis. I had to get to know more about bowling. I had to get to know more about golf. And so, and just listening to the students and what they're talking about, when I go to a practice and I see them, I'm able to kind of regurgitate, oh, this is what I saw at practice. Oh, you was there? Yeah, I was there. I'm at the games. I'm one of the biggest cheerleaders at the games. I'm always there. And so they know that there's a real connection there, but I also know the sport. I also love the sport. So when we're talking, that was kind of what got me, kind of in with them, because I knew what I was talking about. I knew the sport. And when I would ask questions and when I didn't know, and they were happy to tell me about it because, oh, she really wants to know. She's not just talking just to ask a question. She really wants to know about the sport and how I can help them to understand what they're going through. So sports social worker needs a combination of education, your skills, and your personal qualities. And for me, the personal quality is just being approachable, just being open, being able to talk to them and not having a safe space for them to talk to and to feel like they can come and talk to me in a safe space. Sports social workers operate at the intersection of athletic performance and well-being, focusing on athletes and environments that shape their experiences. Sports social work provides direct therapeutic interventions, community engagement, and advocacy. And the goal is to enhance athletes' capability to addressing their own behavioral health and psychosocial needs. So some of my supportive resources that I have used, ASWIS is huge. If y'all have not heard of ASWIS, go to this website. ASWIS is the Alliance of Social Workers in Sports. So there is a real organization that supports this, that engages this, that talks about this and, different workshops and trainings. And I'm a member of ASWIS, and so I love it, love it, love it. I am on a group with ASWIS once a month, and we do like coffee talks and chats. And so it's like, hey, what's going on with your school? Hey, what's going on with your sport? Hey, how we throw out case scenarios that is difficult that we're working with to help each other out. Love it, love it, love it. The CCSSW certified clinical sports social work. There's also a certification that you can get to being a clinical sports social worker. There's courses you can take and a legit test that you take at the end. It's kind of like the licensure test. And then so you complete that, you take the courses, you complete it, and you can get certified as a clinical sports social worker. Athletewellnessconsultants.com is another one that I go to, a website, and I know some of the people that run the organization, and they're very helpful, very, very helpful, wise. And then just positive psychology, when I just want to use some different activities, some different sheets, some different education pieces, I always go to positive psychology to kind of throw out some things for my student athletes. So any questions or comments? Ooh, I talk, y'all. I'm sorry.
No, this this is great. We had quite a few
Oh no.
in the
Sorry.
chat. And yeah, they were lighting it up. It was some great questions and interest here. Let me scroll up really quick. And once we get to 6:30, if you have to go, you will get your credit. And so we do want to just thank you for joining. But we know that there's a number of questions, and we want this is a very fascinating topic. And are you is are there other universities in Alabama that are utilizing social workers in sports social work?
So I think they call it, I mean, I don't know if they call it sports social workers, but like I know, and maybe even like I think you're in Huntsville at A&M, like they have a mental health department. And so
Okay.
if they have the mental health department, it may be counselors, and that it is, and then so they typically, before I took on this role position, it was just the counseling center, and then the counseling center dealt with all mental health issues, athletes and non-athletes. But this time they just kind of segmented, and then just had me just to deal with just the athletes. So all campuses, of course, should have someone for a mental health department, but some athletic departments have just a mental health component.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's give it up to Jacksonville for having represent for
Yeah.
social workers because that's like a big deal to me.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I know it was a process getting that set up, but big ups to Jacksonville bringing social workers, and I can see why your passion is so strong. Because I'm like this gig, man. It doesn't. It feels like it would be work, but not like work because I'm just so hyped. I'm in
Right.
there and I'm trying to see their performance, and
Yeah.
it's and that's how work should be. That's how work
Right.
should be.
Right.
Okay, let me
Yes.
get to their questions here because I'm all into this. Let's see. Brianna said, "Do you all offer study hall for the athlete?"
Yes, our athletes, and a lot of times it's per sport, like they'll look at the GPAs of the student, or if the student, we have study hall that they have to have so many hours for study hall, and or we have like study zone, study tables. So certain ones, like if they have like certain topics or certain like one biology, like biology is really hard or really rough for them. So they have a study table just for biology, or they have a study zone. But all the athletes at some point probably will have some type of study hall hours. So that's just kind of done by their sport. Their coaches kind of say, hey, they look at the academics and they work with the academic component of it, because we have an academic team. So the coaches work with the academic team and they look at that and then they say, okay, hey, well, this student is going to need this many hours of study hall.
Mhm. That's good stuff. Thank you. Dr. Lewis said, "Is it an NC? double A requirement to have a person in your position at every school?
Yeah, it is becoming one now. Yes. And that
Good.
was why Jacksonville kind of jumped on the bandwagon. I was like, okay, let's go ahead and get this done. And so yes, it's becoming and has become the NCAA requirement to make sure that they have someone that's designated just for athletes.
Okay, awesome, awesome. It's let's see. We have to see about those slides. I don't know about that. Um, what else do we have? Wow. Okay, could you touch more on the strategies that you have used to reduce stigma around mental health support with athletes who are reluctant to engage, especially if you can see they are really needing the emotional support?
So could you touch more on strategies you may use to reduce stigma? So honestly, that's an ongoing battle for me, just because it is something that's new here. Because like I said, they just had the counseling services on campus, and that was athletes and non-athletes. And so for me, it was really showing them that I cared, showing the engagement, like not just going to the games, because I was like, I don't get paid to go to the games. I go to the games because I enjoy going to the games. And so going down to the athletic training room, going above and beyond. And so when they saw that, oh, she's really in this, like she's gonna be in our face, she ain't going nowhere. And
Yeah,
so then they were like, oh, okay. And so just having a conversation, and it wasn't like I'm going to the training room talking about, oh, let's talk about your feelings and are you okay? No, it was like, hey, what's going on? What you doing? You got pets, you got a dog, how's your mama? Da, 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 da.
yeah.
Just really engaging with them. And honestly, the more I engage, like let's just say basketball, women's basketball, the more I engage with women's basketball, like two or three of them, they just started telling the other teammates, "Hey, y'all need to go talk to Mr. Tosca. You think so? Yeah, you need to go talk to." So it's just like it was like a trickle effect. So even more me just going out and being visible and trying to do things, it was more so of the relationship and just kind of building. And it took a while. Like I said, it was a full semester. I was only like seeing 15 and 20 at the most in the beginning. Now it's
Wow.
overload, but it's good overload. But it's like, you just have to kind of go in and make it your own. But you also have to know your environment that you work in. You also have to know who's for you and who's against you and where you
Mhm.
can go and where you can't go.
Absolutely.
And so and me sometimes just knowing, like I'll see somebody, I know that they're going through something, or one of the players may say, hey, you really need to go talk to so and so because she's not in a good space or whatever. I would reach out to them. I would send them an email. I personally send them emails or personally go on our apps where we can text them and say, hey, I saw that you really didn't look like you was in a good mood. You want to talk about it? Like those personal engagements and just reaching out to them. And now I don't have to do any of that. It's just me just walking around and they, hey, Mr. Tosca, hey, so-and-so. Like I don't have to do any of that. They're sending me emails. And so I think just the more and more you put yourself out there and really, really show that you care and really try to connect. But I do try to do like different engagement things, because I had a student athlete panel where I would have them, if they wanted to, they could come and talk about like what they were dealing with, what they were experiencing, to try to get others to come in and see. So we had, our athletic director came, we had the counseling center there, the compliance team was there, other people
Wow.
were there, like to hear these athletes speak. And so
Mm,
it gave the athlete a podium to say
voice.
like how they felt about mental health and what they were dealing with. But it also gave the outside people who thought athletes were just sunshine and rainbows to say, dang, they really do be going through stuff.
Going through things. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing. I know you said you moved the program to around 20 to 100, and that shows the need. It definitely shows the need, but it
right.
it also shows your skill and your ability to connect with those athletes. And I think that that's amazing, and I just want to validate you for that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Yes. How many do you know how many schools have the social work this Cindy? Hey Cindy, how many schools have the social work this social work position?
Honestly, I don't know. Like I said, this is new to me. And I kind of go out because we're part of Conference USA. And so I really try to just like talk to different people that I know in the conference and say, hey, what is, because they're called different things. Like in the beginning, I was called a student athlete development specialist. But I was
Mm,
like, that's too much to say. What is that? And so then I became the athletics counselor. And so they may have a certain position, but it's called something different. And so it's not as solid as it needs to be yet, because it's still coming through, it's still coming out. But it's not. I don't know how many schools, but I'm like every school should have that mental health component, that department, but they just may have a different title.
wow, wow. We're getting down to the end of questions. Can you share your resource for values clarification?
Yeah, I will, I guess I can send it to you, Choya,
Yes, sure,
and
certainly.
then that we can just kind of send
Yeah,
it
I
out.
can attach that. Yes,
Okay,
absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
that
Yes.
is a
Um,
great piece. I love it.
So we got a lot of comments about how awesome this was. Thank you for this. I worked for ASMOC for years ago, and the need for this position is huge, especially in the age of NIL. Yes, oh my goodness, they need it more than ever now because these kids are gonna straight lose it if they not, uh, help. I have enjoyed this presentation tremendously. Angela mentioned. All right, well, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you all. It's lots and lots of thank yous and lots of positive comments. It's amazing. It's a lot of them. And so
It
this,
is.
this is great. We really thank you all for your support and thank you for showing up to engage with us today. And I want to thank you, Ataska, for a
Yes.
wonderful, awesome presentation. You've got me hyped. I'm like, boy, there's some way I could work something like that in.
All
If it's a
right.
possibility. You know
You're
what I
trying to
mean?
add it to
I'm
your
like,
list.
hey, and they go pro. They might say, hey, look, can I get you
Come
on the
on with
side?
me,
You know what
right?
I'm saying? So, but we will be sending out continuing education to everybody. And keep a heads up. We do have something coming up shortly. Let me see if I can pull that. We do have another presentation that we will be having on next month, and let's see who we've got. And it's preventing the crispy effect, ethical strategies to combat burnout. And don't we all need that? And so we're going to be getting into that, and that should be on May the 20th at 5:30 p.m. So we're looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you, Camille, and we are so glad that you came through. And thank everybody for joining. We're gonna let you all go because I'll keep talking. You all know it, and we'll see y'all again soon.
All
Thanks
right.
again.
Thank
All
you.
right now, thank you, Desiree. Yes, Denise, Angela, Yana, Tasha. Thank you.
Well, you know what? I forgot to put my name and stuff on here.